I'm 95 years old, and for 40 years I carried a secret that poisoned every single day of my life. A secret so heavy that some mornings I didn't want to get out of bed. A secret that made me smile when I wanted to scream, stay silent when I should have spoken, and accept treatment that no human being should ever endure. And the worst part? I chose this silence. Nobody forced me to stay quiet. I did it to myself. And that choice cost me more than you could ever imagine. But before I tell you what that secret was, I need you to understand something. I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm not looking for pity or validation. I'm telling you this because somewhere out there, someone is living the same lie I lived. Someone is swallowing their dignity every single day, telling themselves it's necessary, it's temporary, it'll get better. And I need that person to hear what happens when you stay silent for 40 years. Because what I'm about to tell you might save you from the hell I put myself through. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what I did and what was done to me. For 40 years, from the time I was 25 until I was 65 years old, I worked as a housekeeper for the same family in Connecticut. Rich family. Big house on 3 acres. Beautiful property with gardens I maintained myself. From the outside, people probably thought I had it good. Steady work, regular pay, a room in the staff quarters. In 1954, when I started, that seemed like a blessing for a black woman with limited options in America. What nobody saw, what I never told anyone, not my sister, not my church friends, not even my own daughter, was the daily humiliation I endured from the woman I worked for. The woman who smiled at her country club friends while treating me like I was less than human when those doors closed. For 40 years, I let her call me girl, even when I was 60 years old with gray hair. For 40 years, I ate my meals standing in the kitchen or in my small room because she didn't want me at the dining table, even when I cooked the food she was eating. For 40 years, I watched her recoil when my hand accidentally touched hers, like my skin could contaminate her. Let me tell you how it started. The first week, she handed me a uniform, navy blue dress, white apron, white cap. She said it made things more professional. What she meant was it made our positions clear. She was the lady of the house. I was the help. The uniform was a costume that reminded both of us every single day who had power and who didn't. I wore that costume for 40 years. The rules came next. Never use the front door. Never sit on the living room furniture, even to dust it. Never speak unless spoken to when guests were present. Never, ever call her by her first name. It was always ma'am or Mrs. Hartford. She called me girl or sometimes just snapped her fingers when she wanted my attention, like I was a dog. Here's what I told myself in those early years. It's just a job. The money is good. Be grateful. Don't make waves. These were different times. I had rent to pay. I had my daughter to think about. I convinced myself that swallowing my dignity was the smart thing to do, the practical thing, the survival thing. And maybe at first, it was. But somewhere along the way, survival became surrender. And I didn't even notice when that happened. Let me tell you about the day I truly understood what I had become. But I need to set this up first, because this moment changed everything. It was 1973. I had been working there for 19 years. Her daughter was getting married. Big wedding, 300 guests, tents on the lawn, orchestra, the works. I spent 2 weeks helping prepare, cleaned every corner of that house until it sparkled, polished silver, arranged flowers, pressed tablecloths. The morning of the wedding, I ironed her daughter's wedding dress with my own hands, carefully, lovingly even. Because despite everything, I had watched that girl grow up. I had bandaged her scraped knees, made her favorite cookies when she was sad, listened to her talk about her first crush. When the photographer arrived to take family photos, I was in the kitchen finishing the last details. The bride came looking for me. She wanted me in one photo, just one. A photo with the people who helped raise her. She took my hand and pulled me toward the garden where everyone was gathered. I was touched. After 19 years of being invisible, someone finally saw me. Her mother's face went cold. She pulled her daughter aside, but I could hear every word. "We're not taking pictures with the help. What would people think? She can watch from the kitchen if she wants, but she's not standing in our family photos. Don't be ridiculous." The bride looked at me, apologized with her eyes, then turned and walked back to her family. And I stood there in that kitchen doorway, wearing my uniform, holding a serving tray, watching them take their perfect family photos without me. The girl I had raised didn't fight for me. Nobody did. And something inside me cracked so deep I heard it. But did I say anything? Did I walk out? Did I demand the respect I deserved? No. I swallowed it. I smiled. I served 300 guests their champagne and cake. I congratulated the bride. I cleaned up after everyone left. And I went to bed that night hating myself more than I hated her. Because I knew in that moment that I had become complicit in my own destruction. And I stayed anyway. You want to know why I stayed silent? Because I was afraid. Afraid of losing my job. Afraid of not being able to pay my rent. Afraid of what people would say if I made a fuss. This was the 1950s, 60s, 70s. The world was different then. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe I just told myself that to justify my cowardice. Because fear is a choice too. And I chose fear over dignity every single day. But here's what nobody tells you about swallowing your truth. It doesn't just disappear. It sits inside you like poison. It changes you, makes you smaller, makes you bitter, makes you doubt your own worth until you start to believe you deserve exactly what you're getting. I became a ghost in my own life. Present, but not really there. Breathing, but not really living. And here's the part that haunts me to this day. The part I can barely say out loud even now. My silence didn't just hurt me. It taught my daughter that this was normal, that this was what survival looked like, that you smile while people disrespect you, that you accept whatever treatment comes your way because speaking up is too dangerous. My daughter started working as a nanny when she was 22 for a family in the same town. And one day, when she was 30 years old, she came to visit me in my little room at the Hartford house. She looked tired, beaten down, and she told me about her job, how the mother she worked for corrected her English in front of the children, how she wasn't allowed to eat with the family, how they paid her late, sometimes weeks late, because they knew she needed the money and wouldn't complain. And then she said something that broke me. She said, "But it's okay, Mama. It's just how things are. You taught me that. Just keep your head down and be grateful for the work." I looked at my daughter and I saw myself. I saw what my 40 years of silence had created. I had taught her to be small, to accept less, to smile while dying inside. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't protected her by staying quiet. I had cursed her. I had passed down my chains, and if I didn't do something, she would pass them to her daughter. 3 generations of women who learned that their dignity was negotiable. That was my breaking point. Not the wedding photos, not the 40 years of being called girl. It was seeing my daughter become me. That's when I knew I had to leave. Not for myself, for her. Because if I stayed, I was telling her that this was acceptable, that this was all we deserved. I gave my notice the next week. Mrs. Hartford was shocked. After 40 years, I was leaving with 2 weeks' notice. She asked why. I didn't tell her the truth. Even then, at 65 years old, I couldn't find my voice. I said my health wasn't good, that I needed to rest. She didn't fight to keep me. She just asked when I could train my replacement. After 40 years, that's all I was. Replaceable. The day I left that house for the last time, she gave me a card and $500. $500 for 40 years. I took it, said thank you, and walked out of that house carrying 1 suitcase and 4 decades of regret. Now here's what I need you to understand. I lived 30 more years after I left that job. 30 years. And those 30 years taught me something I wish I had known at 25. Freedom isn't just about having money or security. Freedom is waking up and knowing you don't have to shrink yourself to survive the day. Freedom is looking in the mirror and recognizing the person staring back. Those first few years after I left were hard. I had less money, smaller apartment, no steady work. But you know what I had? My dignity, my voice, myself. And for the first time in 40 years, I could breathe. Really breathe. I started saying no to things that diminished me. Started saying yes to things that honored me. Started speaking up when something wasn't right, even if my voice shook. I reconnected with my daughter. Really connected. Not just those sad visits to my room at the Hartford house. I told her the truth about those 40 years. Everything. The humiliation, the silence, the cost. And I told her she deserved better. That we both did. It took time, but she eventually left that nanny job. Found work where she was treated with respect, and she raised her daughter differently. Taught her to speak up, to know her worth, to never, ever trade her dignity for survival. I'm 95 years old now. I've been free for 30 years. And I'm telling you, those 30 years of freedom meant more than the 40 years of steady paychecks. Because I got myself back, not the person I was at 25. That person was gone. But I found a new version of myself. Stronger, wiser, unafraid. My daughter is 70 years old now. My granddaughter is 45. They both speak their truth. They both demand respect. They both know their worth. And that happened because I finally broke the chain. Late, but not too late. Because if I had stayed silent until I died, that poison would have lived on in them. My silence would have been my legacy. So I'm speaking now. Not just for me, but for anyone who's living the lie I lived. Anyone who's swallowing their truth because they're afraid of the consequences. Anyone who's teaching their children that dignity is negotiable. Your dignity is not negotiable. Not for money, not for security, not for anything. The moment you start trading pieces of your soul for survival, you stop living. You become a ghost. And ghosts don't have futures. They just haunt the present, wishing they could go back. If someone treats you as less than human, leave. I don't care how much you need the money. I don't care how limited your options seem, because the cost of staying is higher than any paycheck. The cost is your spirit, your self-respect, your ability to teach your children that they matter. Speak your truth. Even if your voice shakes, even if people don't want to hear it, even if it costs you something, because silence costs more. Silence costs everything. It cost me 40 years. Don't let it cost you the same. I'm 95 years old. My body is failing. My time is measured in months now, maybe weeks. But I'm not afraid anymore, because I broke the chain. Because I taught my daughter and granddaughter that their voices matter. Because I'm leaving behind something better than money or property. I'm leaving behind freedom. Don't do what I did. Don't wait 40 years to speak your truth. Don't teach your children to be small. Don't trade your dignity for survival. Because 30 years of freedom is worth more than 40 years of silent suffering. Always. If you're living a lie right now, if you're enduring treatment you know is wrong, hear me. You will survive the truth. You might not survive the lie. I almost didn't. Share this if it resonates. Tell someone your truth today. Stop waiting for the right time. There is no right time. There is only now. And now is slipping away faster than you think. The clock is ticking. What truth are you going to speak before it's too late?